You gave everything you had. Loyalty, presence, the quiet strength that doesn't beg for notice. And still, you were met with silence. She never saw it. Not the steel beneath your skin, not the fire you fought to keep from burning out. You thought loyalty was enough, that standing unshaken by ego and storm meant you'd be chosen. But loyalty isn't a currency she spent on you. It was the weight you carried alone, invisible and ignored, like a shadow under a merciless sun. You poured your heart into that devotion, hoping it would crack the surface, hoping it would stir recognition in a gaze that never found you worthy. Instead, you were the iron pillar nobody thanked, unmovable, unacknowledged, unnoticed. It's the cruel joke of being the backbone while watching the bones break around you, and no one asks if you're hurting under the weight. You stood there silent, the unsung fortress holding fast through storm and void. The truth is, being loyal was never their standard for choosing you. No, loyalty only meant you became the ghost in the room, the forgotten echo of a promise never returned. You learned this through the ache, the burning question of why you weren't enough when you gave everything. It wasn't because you lacked value. It was because she was looking for something else, something you never could be or wanted to be. And that's the bitter clarity you carry now. Loyalty to others won't define or save you. The steel that matters is forged in your own solitude, in the moments you choose distance over desperation, silence over pleading, and self-respect over shattered expectation. You were the iron pillar, both support and shadow, and finally you turned your back and stepped away. Not because you stopped caring, but because you decided your narrative deserves a warrior who's their own only choice, unyielding, unchained, and finally free. Loyalty built the foundation, but your freedom demands you be the man who walks into the distance, quiet, resolute, and not waiting for anyone's permission to matter. You were taught to open your chest wide, to let your walls crumble and your guard fall, all in the name of connection. You peeled back your skin, laid out your mess and your truth like a trophy, then watched them step right over it. Loyalty, they say, is a virtue. But why does it make you invisible? Why is your steady presence assumed, like the floor beneath their feet, and never honored like the foundation it actually is? You gave your time, your patience, your ear, gifts meant to build bridges, but the bridges stayed one way. You became the well-worn road they traveled, never questioning who built it. Vulnerability was supposed to be your sword, but it turned out to be a target painted on your back. They saw your openness and mistook it for weakness, as if stripping down your armor was an invitation to exploit. What kind of cruel equation teaches a man that revealing his soul means surrendering his dignity? You've lived that paradox. You cracked open your heart, hoping for resonance, only to be met with silence, disregard, or worse, contempt. You became the man who carries others' pain while yours goes unanswered, the quiet weight behind a room that never thanks the burden bearer. This isn't a fault in you. It's the mirror society holds up, telling you if you're soft enough, you'll be seen. If you're open enough, you'll be loved. Instead, you're left counting ghosts in empty rooms, messages read but never returned, promises broken like dry twigs beneath your footsteps. Why endure the cold of your own trust being weaponized? Why make loyalty a silent job, an unpaid debt? The men who raised you, or the voices inside your head, forgot to teach you that being seen requires more than exposure. It demands discipline, holding your ground when no one claps, stepping back when your gift isn't cherished, and learning the language of absence, letting silence answer where words have failed. This is no defeat. This is the grind beneath the myth. You don't owe your presence like a biennial subscription. Loyalty is not a habit, but a choice carved from steel, hard and deliberate. When you learn that, you stop looking for validation in empty echoes. You become a wolf, moving through shadows, silent, unbothered by how far your howl falls before it's heard. You don't give to be caught. You give because you are the strength that doesn't need catching. The question isn't why loyalty makes you invisible. It's why you ever swallowed that lie. You've bled for respect in the dark enough to know neither respect nor love is owed to any man who lays down without first standing firm. You carry scars that the world never signed off on. Every ounce of pain is a weight you lug, not because someone handed it to you, but because you let it sit inside like rust on steel. The Stoics understood this truth long before you ever met your failures. There's a storm-tested oak out in some forgotten forest, branches twisted and cracked, bark slashed by the cruel wind, yet it doesn't bow or beg the sky to quiet down. It doesn't waste a moment questioning why the storm chose it. Instead, it tightens its roots, learns the rhythm of the battering, and grows harder because of it. That oak is not looking for applause when the sun breaks through. It stands silent, unmoved, untouchable. This is your lesson. What tries to bend you won't define you unless you allow it. A friend of mine used to chase a different kind of wind. Every nod, every word of approval was like wind rubbing his skin raw. He mistook praise for armor, and when it vanished, so did his sense of weight and worth. But one day, he stopped collecting validation like currency. He dug his roots deep, swallowed the hunger for other people's lights, and stood on his own ground. It wasn't loud or flashy. Nobody clapped. But he became unshakable, like that oak, strong even when the storm screamed bloody lies. The pain you endure is not a sign of failure. It's the forging fire for your inner steel. Outer storms don't get to decide your shape or your strength anymore. You don't choose to be broken, but you do choose whether to become the man who stands while the storm rips through everything else. Your character, your core, remains your ground. No one else's approval can bury that. In the distance, the world will still howl and throw stones, but you already know who you are beneath all that noise. Strength is born not from being chosen by others, but from the moment you choose yourself, and keep choosing yourself in every damn moment through every damn storm. You walked through hell and never raised your voice. Detachment is the steel wall you build between yourself and everything that drains your spirit without return. You've bled for people, places, and things that never paid you back, not with loyalty, not with respect, not even with simple truth. The hardest lesson is learning to pull your heart out of the fire before it burns you completely. Detachment isn't coldness. It's a damn tactical retreat, a reclaiming of your energy. It's choosing the battle that shapes you, not the noise that distracts you. When you stop gambling your peace on the unpredictable, you gain the kind of clarity that a wild storm can't wash away. But detachment alone is hollow, without control over the chaos inside. Emotional control doesn't mean locking your feelings in a cage and throwing away the key. It's about mastery, how you forge your fire within. You take anger and throw it into the furnace of discipline, turning impulse into purpose. You learn to ride disappointment like a storm wolf, fierce but steady, howling only when it's counted, never lost in the noise of pain. Your emotions become the underground rivers that fuel your strength, not the flood that sweeps you off your steps. To master your emotions is to become an unmoved mountain. Feel deeply, yes, but never drown. Mission first. Life will throw everything at you: slights, confusion, loss, distraction. But when you hold a mission tighter than your fears, every downpour becomes a reason to push harder. Your mission is the northern star that won't bend when the world tries to pull you sideways. It shapes decisions that others call stubbornness, but you recognize as unwavering commitment. Mission first means you work in the silent hours, the unseen sacrifice, the grind nobody applauds. Your mission is not the applause of others. It's the relentless pounding in your own chest, something bigger than rejection, bigger than failure, bigger than fleeting moments of pain. Integrity is the backbone forged in solitude. It means your word is a blade, sharp, reliable, and deadly honest. There are no shortcuts here. Saying what you mean and meaning what you say closes the door on uncertainty, and opens the path to self-respect no man can steal. When you live through integrity, the world's chatter becomes white noise. Opinions, lies, and manipulations bounce off like bullets on armor. You carry a quiet power because you are known to yourself, and that is armor no wound can penetrate. Accountability is the final, brutal truth. It is the promise you make every damn morning in the silence no one sees, that you own your life, your choices, and the wreckage your decisions have left behind. No excuses, no blame cast on shadows or the ghosts of your past. You stand, battle-worn, and face the man in the mirror with relentless honesty. That man is both your greatest adversary and your most loyal brother. When you hold accountability close, you forge yourself daily in the fires of truth and responsibility. You don't wait for redemption from others because you've already earned it from yourself through the slow descent into self-mastery. You walk through hell and never raised your voice. You don't explain, you elevate. You walked through flame and found a new metal beneath your skin, something colder, harder, more real than what burned away. This isn't your old self stitched back together with hope or hollow promises. This is steel forged in silence, tempered by distance, shaped by a quiet that doesn't plead or explain. The world still spins full of noise and judgment, but you've stepped out of their shadows, rewriting the story they tried to write for you. Now your worth doesn't echo off their approval. It hums steady beneath your breath, a low and steady fire no one can douse. Every step you take carries the weight of that resolve. No swagger, no bravado, just the calm certainty of a man who knows exactly who he is. The silence you carry isn't empty. It's the sound of your transformation settling deep into your bones. When you walk away, the world notices. Not because you shouted or demanded attention, but because your absence leaves a space filled with something stronger than words. You don't need to explain your scars or your strength. They are locked behind eyes that have seen storms and come back still standing. You have become the man who commands the room without raising his voice. I don't explain. I elevate.